Hey everybody, it's Carson Gourdie, the Champaign sports anchor for Fox, Illinois, and let's just get right to it. That loss to Michigan State, that was a gut punch. Michigan State, they were able to hold off Illinois 80-78. Tom Izzo and company, they're going to be 7-0 in Big Ten play. And for Illinois, they dropped to 5-3. And, this just complicates their path to trying to win a Big Ten regular season title when you got teams like Michigan, Purdue, and Michigan State ahead of them in the standings. This was a game where Illinois, they start out really hot. They had a 10-point lead, but Michigan State was able to come back and get that victory. I think there was some silver linings. I think Illinois rebounded really well. I thought Illinois played hard. But just bottom line, when your star point guard, Kasper Siakachonis, only plays 9 minutes, which is just ridiculous. When does that ever happen? And when you maybe just don't have enough consistent shooters, it's going to be tough to try to win in East Lansing. And Brad Underwood, he gave his assessment of why he thought they lost to the Spartans.
Can't come in here and miss free throws and expect to win against a team that I thought they guarded exceptionally well and took our three ball away. But
let's just say the elephant in the room. You have a NBA lottery pick point guard, Kasper Siakachonis. He's averaging 17 points per game, shooting 50%, good defense, good rebounder, good passer. He's like a 5-tool player in baseball, right? He can do it all. And he picked up 5 fouls in 9 minutes. And this is like unprecedented. And the reason why that hurts Illinois is because the offense is just so structured around Kasper Siakachonis. Illinois, they have very defined roles. KJ's the point guard. He's going to have the ball 90% of the time. And he's going to try to create some stuff in pick and roll action or ball screens, and he's going to make some magic. Guys like Trey White, guys like Kylan Boswell, guys like Will Riley, they all are talented in their own ways, but they're not a ball handler like Kasper. So this offense just isn't structured, and it looks lost when he's not there. We saw there's a lot of issues. Boswell had a lot of turnovers, in the first half. Will Riley's efficiency really just wasn't there in the second half. He was missing a lot of shots. When KJ played, this offense was clicking. They had a 10-point lead in the first half. And when Kasper's played in the second half, they scored 5 points right away before that last foul. Now, regarding the fouls, some of those were controversial around social media, just around the college basketball landscape. Specifically, the fourth foul, Brad Underwood talked about it.
The fourth one was awful. I'll say that. He got shoved in the back and pushed into a guy, and, that one was just gross.
And by no means, you can lose in a vacuum. You can lose at Michigan State, and that's not a bad loss. Tom Izzo, he's rejuvenated. This is one of his best teams in 5 years. I thought Michigan State did a phenomenal job rebounding. I think they know their roles well. They didn't have a bunch of turnovers. They are consistent. They attack the basket because they know they're good at it and they know they can do it. But just bottom line, this Illinois team, the losses are starting to pile up. USC and Northwestern are two gut punches where, it kind of shrinks the margins for Illinois if they want to get a good seed in the NCAA tournament. If you want to get that 3 seed, if you want to get that 4 seed, you can't lose, 10 to 11 regular season games. You finally have to go on this big winning streak and rip it off. And switching over, as promised, we're going to have a preview on the Maryland Terrapins, and we're able to actually be joined by the former Springfield, Fox, Illinois News Channel 20 morning anchor, AJ Gersh. He's actually now in Baltimore doing one of his dream jobs, covering the Baltimore Ravens, Baltimore Orioles, Maryland Terrapins. He was nice enough to come on and preview this game. Let's check it out. Beloved, who's funny, who's a good golfer. AJ Gersh is off to Baltimore doing one of his dream jobs. Thanks for hopping on, buddy.
Appreciate you, Carson. Thanks for having me on. Now, all of that pleasantry as an intro, I'm humbled. Good golfer? Yeah. I don't know. Good is a subjective term. I do have the Piper Glen #1 good day hanging up on the wall behind me, so I have a little piece of Springfield here in Baltimore with me.
Because I remember last year when I was a news reporter and you were a morning anchor, we went to that Illinois Maryland game. We literally drove up. I thought Illinois was going to kick their butts, and Maryland won by 11 points. This has been a really difficult game for Brad Underwood to win over the last few years. Just kind of what's your gauge of Maryland? We kind of talked about it before. If I box score watch I'm loving Derek Queen. Like Jacoby Gillespie's good. Like Ken Palm used to love Maryland. Just what's kind of just your overall take on this team?
I remember that game very well. I was so
Yeah.
excited to go to see the Terps in Champaign. I grew up rooting for the Terps religiously. And so when we had the opportunity to head over to State Farm and check it out, and because I had been before, but not really invested in the game as I
Yeah.
was when we went. And of course, we got some DP dough as well, and we
That's
hit
good.
the Roni calzone after the game. But no, to talk about the Terps, this team is an interesting one because on paper, what you see is guys succeeding at their individual positions and excelling. Like Derek Queen is just a freshman. He's already getting looks to be a lottery pick if he were to go into the NBA draft after this season. He's got all of the intangibles, the size, the speed, the power. He's even working on making a three-pointer happen, which I don't know how good he'll be in that regard moving forward, especially towards this week's game. But Derek Queen is certainly a fun player to watch. It's just he's super, super inconsistent. That matchup will be interesting. Jacoby Gillespie is someone who has really surprised Maryland fans. He's a transfer from Belmont. He's a great shooter. Beginning of the season, he wasn't getting as many minutes as he is now, but when he puts up 20 plus points, Maryland's a hard team to beat. And then, of course, Julian Reese, Angel Reese's brother, who is capable of going 20 and 10. Some days he'll go 20 and 10. Some days he'll go 4 and 8. So it's basically, can you have two out of those three guys click at the same time? And if that happens, or especially if all three of those guys can mesh in one game, Maryland is a really, really tough team to bring down. The other factor is you look at Kevin Willard's ability to win a game versus a great team, and that ability is little to none from what he's proven since he's become the Terps head coach. And you factor in his ability to win on the road. I think he has something like 4 road wins since becoming Maryland's head coach. And so, and one of those was in Illinois
Yeah.
last year.
No
So
Terrence Shannon, but I'll tip my hat. That was a good
no,
win.
no Terrence Shannon, and Julian Reese and Jameer Young, who is the star player for Maryland at that point. Both of them had an amazing game, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying: is you have to have the best players on
Yeah.
Maryland play well at the same time.
There was a game a couple weeks ago. Illinois' defense just got cut up. The centers, like I think Ivisic, she's got good potential with the 3-point shot. I think Merez Johnson's been really good as a freshman, but we saw a couple weeks ago, USC was extremely disciplined. They just kept attacking the basket, layup after layup, and it kind of showed some holes with interior play. It seems like you got the pieces with Reese and Derek Queen. Do you think Maryland is like disciplined enough? Like if you keep dunking the ball inside, we're going to keep going to it?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Because
Because then they
since the
got a
beginning of
shot.
the season, right? Since the beginning of the season, Derek Queen has had games where he looked to me just with the eye check like he could be the number one overall pick in the NBA draft. Like that good, that dominant on the glass, offensive rebounds, putbacks. He's working the kind of like Dirk fadeaway, one knee up, elbow shot.
All right, awesome. Well, Gersh, I got nothing else. We miss you, but you'll always be remembered in Central Illinois. Thanks for coming
I
on,
miss you
giving me
guys
some
too.
perspective about this Maryland Illinois game. I'm crapping my pants. It's been a really tough game for Brad the last few years. We never win at Maryland. They've knocked off some pretty good Illinois teams in Champaign. On paper, you got a good front court. We've been giving up some points down low, but I think if Kasper's Yakichonis doesn't fall out in 9 minutes, like against Michigan State somehow, I think if Will Riley actually makes, 40% of his shots, Boswell doesn't turn it over. Like I do think Illinois is a better team, but I respect Maryland. Like I
Yeah.
respect Ken Palm. I respect Reese. Like you guys shoot the 3-point well. I think it's gonna be a barn burner. So I'm
It,
excited.
if Yakichonis plays the whole game and he plays like he's been capable of playing,
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really tough for the Terps because their front court, or backcourt. Yeah, it's Derek Queen and Julian Reese need to both be on their game for this to work in Maryland's favor, because that's the one-sidedness of it, is that their forwards are so elite, but they have to be able to put together a good game at the same time. They did it against Purdue and they almost beat Purdue. So if they could do it against Illinois, Maryland, I think, comes out on top. But if that's not the case, and if Yakachonis has a great game, it's going to be tough sledding.
And this is a game. And by the way, AJ, thanks for coming on. And this is a game that Brad Underwood has been struggled in winning. This is what I said. He's 3-7 all time against the Maryland Terrapins, and some of those losses, you're like, what? Like, how'd you lose that? Especially with Io in 2021. I'll give him a pass last year because Terrence Shannon didn't play that game, and they only lost by 9. If Shannon plays, they win that game. If Shannon plays the whole year, they win 30 games and probably make the Final Four, because they would have got a 1 seed and not play UConn. But a couple of things that I just, I would like to personally see, when they take on the Maryland Terrapins, I want Ben Hummerkaus to dominate. I like that Ben Hummerkaus is actually starting to shoot some twos. I love the booty ball like Marcus Tomask. I do think it opens it up. And he's actually been successful, in the post area. He's got great size. But he did come here to be a 3-point shooter. So I would love if some plays get drawn up, some catch and shoot opportunities, so Ben can start knocking them down. Because he did against Penn State. He did against Oregon. And I think he's just a huge X factor for this offense. And number 2, I would like to see Kylan Boswell play 2 halves. Say what you want about Kylan Boswell. He is a big plus positive for this team. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in America. What he's done against Tennessee, what he did against Alabama. Brad Underwood just nailed that preseason prediction that he could be one of the best in America on defense. Now, offense, give and take. He's not a great 3-point shooter this year. And that is something where he was pretty much exclusively just really good at Arizona. He's just got to be smarter with his shots, man. He's got everything there. He's got all the tools. He's just got to structure it better. Only being 6'1", he's really strong and sturdy. I mean, his rebounding is just really good for his size. And I think he really showed it against Michigan State when KJ was gone, when the training wheels are off. I thought Boswell played really good in that second half to get that to be a 2-point game. So I tip my hat to Boswell, just more structured. And this is going to be a big game for Ivisic, man. I mean, Maryland's got 2 lethal post players that they're gonna want to score down low. He's gonna have to play a good game on defense. Last couple of weeks we just heard Ivisic has, his tonsils look gross, so he's not playing well, and that stinks. Or he just wasn't mentally focused today against USC. That's what Brad Underwood said, and he's got to do a better job to get him focused. That's another guy. Just get him locked in, because that ceiling's so high. When he's picking and popping threes like what he did against Arkansas, he's one of the best players on the team. And the students are back from winter break. They're done. They're back for second semester. So the Orange Crush wasn't around against USC, Penn State, some of those home games. So I'm excited to see this crowd. And by all means, like, Illinois is 13-5. That's not the best record, but you got to trust Ken Palm when they still are the Big Ten's best team. Let's look at some context. Like, Kaspers Yakachonis literally did not play against USC and pretty much didn't play against Michigan State. He lost to Tennessee because he had 30 fouls and he lost by 2. He lost to Alabama early when he had a super young team with a bunch of fresh faces. I am not freaking out about this team. I think they're really good. I just know it's like odds, though. Like, you got to play the odds. If you want to make the Sweet 16, you want to get a 3 seed. You want to get a 4 seed. You want to get those manageable seeds, because then you get to play the 12 or play the 11, and then you get to play a 6 seed. You know what I mean? And that's what we saw last year with Illinois basketball. They were a 3 seed that got to play 11 seed Duquesne and 14 seed Morehead State. Duh, you're going to make the Sweet 16. So if Illinois wants to get to that path, they just got to rip that stretch. They cannot afford losses to Maryland. They can't afford losses to Nebraska and Rutgers. If you have all this NIL money and one of the best teams in the Big Ten, You got to start winning. You got to rip off a stretch. And I have full confidence that this Illinois team can. I'm just saying it's got to happen. Earlier, I talked about the Big Ten title. It did get complicated losing to Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State 7-0 and Michigan State and Illinois 5-3. But there's been some chaos in this Big Ten recently. Obviously, you guys know Minnesota beat Michigan a couple days ago, right? And then Purdue actually just lost to Ohio State at home. They blew a 16-point lead, so now they have 2 conference losses. Wisconsin Badgers just lost at UCLA, so kind of an open door if Illinois can take care of business, because I can promise you Michigan State's going to start losing some Big Ten games. Their schedule's really hard down the stretch. They got some tough road games, and listen, I respect Tom Izzo. The great defense, good rebounding. They attack the rim, but they can't shoot the 3. And eventually they're going to start losing some road games. So if Illinois just takes care of themselves, if they play golf, they focus on themselves, they're going to have a shot to win a Big Ten title. But most importantly, you keep winning, you're going to get an NCAA tournament seed and probably make another Sweet 16 Elite 8. Hey, and if you make your 3-pointers, you make a Final Four. I'm Carson Gourdie. Enjoy the Maryland game tomorrow.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to watch more videos from News Channel 20.